Hello, everybody. My name is Dustin, and I am the One Man Film Club. And today, I'm going to be reviewing Peter Bogdanovich's 1968 film, Targets. So, Targets is a movie that I recently watched for the first time, and then the next day watched for the second time, and subsequently picked it up on the Criterion Barnes & Noble 50% off sale on Blu-ray. It does not have a 4K release, I don't believe. Um, so I'll just give a brief summary of kind of what this movie is about. It stars Boris Karloff as Byron Orlock and Tim O'Kelly as Bobby. Tim O'Kelly didn't really do much else. He's only in like a couple movies and a bunch of like one-off characters on TV shows. Peter Bogdanovich himself is in this as the director Sammy, and Jack Nicholson has a sort of a cameo, I guess you'd call it, in this movie. So it's an interesting backstory with how this movie got made. Roger Corman actually came to Peter Bogdanovich and said, "Hey, would you like to direct a movie?" Which, of course, Peter said, "Of course." And Roger said, "Hey, I have 2 days of filming that Boris Karloff owes me. Take Boris, film for 2 days, get 20 minutes of new material, mix it in with 20 minutes of material from this movie that we made back in '63, The Terror, and then film another 40 minutes with the other actors, and you have yourself an 80-minute Boris Karloff movie." So what Peter Bogdanovich was able to come up with those criteria is pretty incredible. This is his directorial debut, and I mean he's created this movie that's about real horror versus imaginary horror. It's about painted monsters versus real monsters. It's about mental health. It's about guns. It's about aging, all kinds of stuff. So Boris Karloff plays an aging horror movie star, which Boris Karloff is or was a aging horror movie star. And Tim O'Kelly as Bobby plays a sort of all-American Vietnam vet who kind of just snaps. And so these are two parallel storylines that are going to meet at the end. So I guess they're not parallel because they're going to meet eventually at the end of the movie. So if that sounds interesting to you, I suggest you check it out. You could rent it on Prime or Fandango at home, or you can buy it from the Criterion sale. As I said, it's 50% off right now. I highly recommend it. And I probably won't go, if you want to watch it, I probably won't go much further into this video because I'm going to talk about what happens. And so, yeah, I just highly recommend it. Just go check it out and then come back and watch the rest of this video. So, there will probably be some spoilers. I'm just going to kind of talk about my feelings on it. I just love this movie, man. It just so represents, even though it was made in '68, it so represents the sort of 1970s new Hollywood movement, and just blew me away when I watched it. Couldn't believe it. And it's really short, so it's an easy watch. And like I said, it's about all these crazy themes, like real horror versus imaginary, like mental health. You can tell Bobby is reaching out. He's crying for he has a cry for help uh, to his wife a couple times in the movie, and she just doesn't have the intuition to see. And I think the movie's also commenting on that, like people who are struggling aren't really getting the help that they need. Um, so Bobby is the real monster, and Byron Orlock, played by Boris Karloff, is the pretend monster. And Byron's fed up with making cheap B horror movies. And you can kind of see his point. He's saying, like, why would people be afraid of the movies that I'm making when this real stuff is going on? And there's part where he points out an article in the newspaper about, like, somebody shooting up a grocery store or something. I can't remember the exact. But, yeah, it just makes you think. And so you got, if you even think about horror icons that we know, like Jason and Freddy and Michael Myers, and those are become people that you sort of almost like root for, to a certain extent. You you want to see them, you want to see more of them, and they're sort of stylized so much that they're not really even scary. And Bobby is just this all-American, regular guy. He lives with his wife and his parents, and they're sort of in this Norman Rockwell painting, sitting around the living room watching TV. The wife has to take a second job, or a night shift job, to make ends meet, and Bobby's an insurance salesman, and yeah, so they're Vietnam vet, and you see all these like guns and pictures of guns and stuff, and it's kind of a gun obsessed family. There's even a part where they go out and do some target shooting, and that's such an interesting scene, such a tense scene, when Bobby's dad goes out to put the targets up, and Bobby takes aim at him until his dad turns around and sees him and starts yelling at him. And I think that points out how sort of weak Bobby is, sort of fragile. Like, he's got a gun aimed at his dad, but once his dad confronts him, he doesn't shoot. And you'll see that later when Byron confronts him too. So it's like he's afraid of authority, and maybe afraid of strong men, because the people he kills, to start off, he kills his mom and his wife, and the grocery guy that just happened, grocery delivery guy that just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And then he just kind of grows crazy. And there's so many great scenes, like him on top of that oil tank, and he sits down, he's eating a sandwich. Made me think of Norman Bates, is always eating sandwiches. And then shooting off random people driving by in their cars on the highway. It's just wild. And so then he gets kind of caught, yelled at, he takes off running. He's got this big bag full of guns and ammo and shit are falling all over the place. And it's just kind of wild. And, the whole time we keep seeing Byron and his struggles and how he wants to get out. Sammy's the director of the last movie that Byron made. And he's like, I made this, I wrote this movie for you. This is going to be great. You're going to love this. But Byron doesn't even care enough to read the script, and he's just fed up with it all. And so you see him, and he's like, I'm not gonna go do all these promotional things that you want me to do. I'm tired of this shit. I'm gonna go back home. And he finally agrees to do this promotional stunt where he's gonna go to this drive-in movie theater. And where does Bobby end up? At this drive-in movie theater, and he's behind the actual projection screen, shooting moviegoers at random. And it's just kind of wild. And there's so much meta stuff in this, like the aging horror star and the struggling director, and then there's that awesome scene where Byron Orlock is walking towards Bobby, and then Byron's character on the big movie screen is also walking towards Bobby, and Bobby's like looking back and forth at them. And I just thought that was such a cool scene. So yeah, when Byron walks up and just like bitch slaps him, and it totally, and then Byron even says, he's like, this is what I was afraid of. So it really shows that these guys, while they are monsters, like these shooters, these mass shooters, they're monsters, but they're weak and broken. And I think the movie's saying that they need help, and there's no place for them to get it. And unfortunately, this movie hasn't aged well at all. I'm sorry, let me scratch that. Unfortunately, the movie has aged very well, too well, to where when the movie was made, these mass shooters weren't very common, and now, we hear about it, almost every day. You hear about a mass shooting, and it doesn't even bother us anymore. We just move on with our lives. Unless we live by there or we know some of the victims, we just move on with our lives. It's like nothing anymore. It's just a regular part of life. And you wonder if the filmmakers at all thought that that's something that could happen, that the world was going to get like that. It's pretty sad. It's pretty fucking scary that the world is like this. And this movie was inspired by a real life shooting, a mass shooting down in Texas. I forget the guy's name. Hold on, let me look that up. Charles Whitman is the name of the guy. He was the shooter in the University of Texas Tower. So that's who inspired that's the real life guy that inspired the movie. Just a great movie. I can't recommend it enough. So if you haven't seen it and you're still watching this and you haven't been spoiled too much, go check it out. And let me know what you thought of Targets if you have seen it, and let me know what you thought of the review. And give me a subscribe and a like and a comment. We're going to be doing kind of a review, maybe about once a week. I'll do a review, and I've got some plans for some other kind of fun stuff. Some like not top 10 lists, but not your sort of typical top 10 lists. We're going to try to do like maybe 10 old black and white movies for people who don't think they like black and white movies, or maybe 10 foreign films for people that don't like to read subtitles, stuff like that. So thanks for watching, and have a good day.